Hello and a warm welcome to today's edition of Political Spectrum. It's coming to you live on Spectrum Television. I am Raymond Ita, putting you through with some of the day's biggest political news stories, and we saw characterized the February 25 and March 18 elections respectively. And while post-election litigations continue to dominate the political space, there's expectations from all quarters that there would be a seamless transaction. While the political gladiators have been involved in one drama or the other in the past few days and weeks, post-election concerns, in the views of most Nigerians, has been even more eventful than what we saw respectively. We'll be talking about this later on as we progress, but as is the tradition, we'll keep you up to speed with the day's biggest political news stories and update. And let's start with the news that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar yesterday urged voters in Adamawa and Kebbi to vote for the People's Democratic Party's candidate in the April 15 supplementary elections. Well, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, constituencies and 58 state assembly constituencies across the country. Atiku called on voters in Adamawa and Kebbi to conduct themselves peacefully during and after the elections and to vote overwhelmingly for the PDP. Well, his call is contained in a statement by his spokesperson, Paul Ibe, which was released yesterday. In the February 25 election, Peter Obi for detaining him at the Heathrow Airport in London after they gave him detention note. Now, the officials had detained Peter Obi for allegedly committing treatment of Peter Obi was completely unacceptable. In a statement released yesterday, the immigration officials said their action has been appalling. Peter Obi, well, the news around it only just emerged around the last few days. Well, the head of the Obi Dati Media Campaign Organization, Diran Onifade, who confirmed the development in a statement yesterday, noted that Obi was wrongly detained over offences allegedly committed by an imposter who is still at large. Elects from all political parties who won seats in the parliament have vowed to respect the decision of the majority party in the House, which is the APC, on zoning the Speaker and Deputy Speaker seats in the House, as well as the decision of opposition parties on minority leadership of the House, in line with elects from the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, the NNPP, the Social Democratic Party, as well as the All Progressives of the legislature, the Interdependents of the legislature, and also other arms of government to legislate for good governance and grassroots impact, as well as constituency outreach, equity and fairness among members-elect, as well as unity, equity and fairness. Since of about 14 APC governors, 9 PDP governors, as well as several National Working Committee members of the ruling and opposition political parties. The forum said its independence of the speakership ambition of any of the various aspirants, but said whether it is the majority party's zoning of the speakership office towards building a ranker-free and people-oriented tent assembly and in line with best parliamentary practices. Let's move on from that now. The Deputy National Party, Senator Samuel Anyanwu, as the flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party in the forthcoming governorship election in Imo State, as the doing of God for Senator Anyanwu, who is the current National Secretary of the PDP, the best in the November governorship election. Well, he said he had prayed that the People's Democratic Party's string of opportunity to assure all candidates of the party, as well as members of his sincere thoughts and prayers for a successful outing in the election, and also congratulated them in Ahmed Abdukarim Asuku have withdrawn from the governorship primary election of the All Progressives Congress APC. Now recall that the ruling APC had fixed its governorship primary election for Friday, April 14, APC in Lokoja yesterday, where the governor allegedly unveiled his preferred candidate, who is a former Auditor General of the state, Ahmed Usman Ododo. Now, chairman of the primary election committee and Zamfara state governor are free to participate in Friday's primary to be held across the state. Well, he said other aspirants who have not withdrawn from the race are also free to partake in the exercise. Well, there are some states, of course, who did not take part, as we know it, in the recently conducted March 18 governorship elections. We only had elections take place in 28 states of the Federation. We have elections coming up in some this year. Imo State in November, Kogi State. So we should be having elections in some states sometime this year, while others will come in mid-2024. We're talking about elections. They just concluded general elections throughout did against the expectations many had of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to guarantee Nigerians free, fair and credible polls, something they have said will form the basis of the supplementary polls expected across the country. Spectrum will return.
On behalf of other members of the panel, hereby declare the distinguished senator.
The people of Imo State here for liberty. They have in the last 3.5 years been subjected to most horrid, humanizing, and life-discounting experiences. Ever, the productive years when government worked for the people, when honest visionary leaders and statesmen creatively apply themselves to build a balanced state where the security
zone to the north, central region to bring about inconclusiveness in the scheme of affairs in the country. The strategic importance of the north central region in the country must be considered. The much needed synergy and sense of belonging in leading the country to greater heights. This much the APC and other political parties must come to terms with, given that the 10th Assembly will prove to be anti-progressive if factors such as the were not considered. The speakership of the 10th...
Undergone in recent decades, Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product advertise on Spectrum Television on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Political Spec for content and quality programming. Well, I can do well to follow. Well, before we come over to the day's first big concern, where we'll be having information breaking from Kogi State, and a short while ago, others have reportedly withdrawn from the APC primaries ahead of Governor Yahaya Bello. Pharmacist was fixed today, being Friday, April 14. That primaries, and all of these may not be give his backing going into the governorship elections in Kogi State. And Ahmed Usman Ododo. Now, this information seemed to have been Governor Edward Onoja and the Chief of Staff to Governor Bello an exercise in futility, since Governor Bello has reportedly named his pullout of the race to succeed on the activities of the other political taking place. To this effect, there has been Forest State Governor Mohammed Bello Matawale from office come May 29. It's been saddled with the responsibility of in a meeting yesterday where it was said Governor Bello has said other aspirants who have not withdrawn. Let's go through some of the hegemony was better off. This will hamper the chances of from the deputy governor who has released a message on health. My appreciation to my leader, His Excellency Alhaji Yahya. On his part, the Chief of Staff made a tweet via a post where he said has actually named the preferred successor, and he went further, taken yesterday, and he will remain taking place on November 11 this year. David Adebanji Jimo, who is a former commissioner for the gubernatorial race in Kogi State. So does this make a job after Governor Bello in Kogi, especially the People's Democratic Party in this race? The Chief of Staff Asuku, as well as Edward Onoja Usman Ododo, who is the preferred choice of Governor Bello. We'll keep up to stay trickle in, but the big showdown, of course, would come later. About the elections gone by, the February 25 and March 18 exits from the just concluded 2023 polls. We'll find out what we come back got in the
that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa.
Forged by its inhabitants. The health of this relationship. Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Its relationships and family life in the 20.
Business exists only to meet the need for your desired return on investment and so much more. Advertise on free. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every day, we bring a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone. Picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of this relationship Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30. Family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect.
But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For Channel 421 and on free to air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian. From issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. Remain committed.
security, Bobum and Uyai Anyekan every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
back, and many thanks for staying with us. You're watching Political Spectrum live on Spectrum Television with me, Raymond Ita. It's time to delve into the day's second other concern, but a short while ago we inundated you about the preparations for the gubernatorial primaries of the APC from the race, and that has paved the way for the preferred candidate of Governor Bello in the person of former Auditor General of Kogi State, Usman Adodo, to perhaps become the front runner in the primaries taken recently concluded and conducted February 25 and March 18 Presidential, National Assembly and gubernatorial and state assembly elections across Nigeria, respectively. Well, these are issues we'll be hoping to review in the hope that the elections in shape in subsequent polls coming ahead, perhaps beginning with the supplementary elections expected across the country tomorrow in different constituencies, state, as well as national spectrum. Is live today in our studios. Good morning, Godwin, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ray. Nice to meet you.
I'd like to start by asking, how is Benue State? Because we've always had you join us virtually.
Of issues related to S-men attack and all that. But in general, Benue State is always very peaceful, very calm.
I think late yesterday, Governor Samuel Atom census, when you have so many displaced persons, around Benue State, owing to some of the clashes that you have mentioned, including attacks by herdsmen, would you agree with his position?
Yeah, I think I agree with his position, because if you go to some communities, no well structured IDP camps in Benue State, as the case may be. So I think it happened in other parts of the country too, where they are attacked, like related to Borno State, Zamfara State, and not. Okay,
let's turn our sights now to more pressing concerns, if you like. The aftermath of the just concluded elections across Nigeria. It's really, really sore. We may not dwell necessarily on the court cases because they're still in court as we speak, but Nigerians have truly learned, their lessons with all of the things that characterized the last polls. INEC is just one interested party from Nigerians themselves, because without the voters, there would be no elections. The voters had a key role to play in this polls, you would agree. Even though at the twilight or at the 11th hour, some of them, eventually gave in to the lure of having to sell their votes for money and several other things, just to truncate the election. For instance, we're still going to keep seeing most of the incidents that have characterized elections over the years, no matter the level of conscientization and awareness.
So many things that would lead to election issues when it comes to the satisfaction of election processes. Let's take, for instance, before now, we used to have a manual election, as the case may be, even though the election is still manually conducted. Sorry, with a voter's card. Sometimes you call it temporary voter's card. They come out, people join and vote. Sometimes they come and write names and put at as the case may be. Must come through accreditation before you vote. Now Nigerians were looking at this, they just concluded election to be one of the best conducted election in Nigeria, but it turned out to be carried away by a little change that was given to them by politicians. They had to sell their vote and go the way are we happy with the people that have won the election, or the people that we have elected to represent us? This is the big lesson where Nigerians were not satisfied, because so many people find themselves in a situation that they can't say no because of the poverty and to voting people that they will not hold accountable tomorrow. So I feel Nigeria have learned a very big lesson in that context, that maybe if it was to say let election become the other election, I think I must think straight. So Nigeria have learned a big lesson that they're not going to be voting for political party. That's why you see different, should I call it shock in the election, that a lot of people feel they are a lesson that the change that we have been clamoring for is gradually coming to an existence.
Well, it's Africa's largest democracy by all standards, but the outcome of this election became so controversial and resulted in some kind of outrage amongst some opposition made by INEC before the election did not meet expectations when the polls eventually came around. Mr. Mahmoud Yakubu has been in the eye of the storm. I mean, he's faced a barrage of criticisms since after the election. Most persons have branded him in unprintable names, even going as far as calling him a disgrace to Nigerians. That these elections were marred with any kind of irregularities. They've only said we experienced skirmishes in 1 or 2 places, but it's not enough to say that the process discussion and say if the electoral body fails to Africa's largest democracy, it clearly makes no sense.
I think INEC are just trying to self-glorify themselves to say that they understand that there were some issues related to the election. So it means there was issue. So if you have pointed out that there were issues, it means the election was not properly conducted. If you look at the amount of meted and all that and all that, but we end up seeing an election that was not electronically transmitted. As regards to what INEC said or told Nigerians, even the electoral law, right, with the election you conducted, is the world in general satisfied with the election you conducted in Nigeria? So these are the questions INEC should answer. They said to themselves, it's satisfied because they feel they have done.
No common sentences when they assured Nigerians that we're going to have one of the best elections ever. It needed to be free, it needed to be fair, and it needed to be credible. So let's start from the freeness of the polls. And freeness here would ordinarily begin with the test. We saw widespread voter intimidation. When it's gone as bad as people threatening people not to cast their vote except for a particular candidate, not a free process.
That's not a free. When you talk about free and fair election, is I come and I vote for the candidate of my choice without intimidation. No problem from in the polling unit. I come and cast my vote. Nobody is there to threaten me if you don't vote for this political. That a lady was almost, her eyes was almost blinded in Lagos State when she went to cast. She came all the way from the United Kingdom to cast a vote for the candidate of her choice, and she was beaten up. Do you call that free? I don't think there was anything like free. Maybe in some places where talks were destroy election materials, they were, and INEC still goes ahead to announce result in those places and all that. So it means the election was not free and fair. It means to me, I don't see anything free.
Usually during the process of damaging them by ensuring adequate presence of security, whether it's the police, the army, the NSCDC, or whatever security apparatus, they're usually provided around the polling units. But we saw a difference with this election when it was made mandatory that no police officer or security agency to not allow people who have some kind of fears that they could be intimidated or harassed by security operatives, as was claimed, and leave. But did it do a lot to stop the fears that we had about ballot box snatching or damaging of electoral materials, which characterized sold to unknown locations, simply because the hoodlums took advantage of the fact that there were hardly any security presence there except one police officer and addressed the situation? Did we really see most of that happening?
I see election that where I see an election on the election day. I saw security officers sitting helplessly without arms. A security personnel without arms, for instance, the police without arms, and it talks is coming with all amount of gadgets, weapons, and the police officer is sitting empty-handed. What is it going to do? Is it going to stop anything? You will not have power. The uniform cannot stop anything. So with polling unit or guide election umpires direct or maybe to be present so that there could be orderliness in election ground, we're just helpless because you cannot put somebody to be there without even a stick. Yes, some police officers, you see them in problem in a polling unit, and I had to call, maybe I send a distress call to the nearest unit for armed policemen or security agencies to come. How long does it take for them to arrive? When you talk about, I'm talking about the Nigerian system, the way we respond to SOS, where you have this issue, this response that was straight, but in general, it wasn't like that. So it means that we must have a peaceful election where there is no. I see Nigeria in such a way that it will take a long time to eliminate all this thuggery in our system when it comes to election, because there are people who want to become, they want the post by all means, so they go as extra miles of bringing all sort of negative people to come and mar the election process.
So will you say we could go back to basics and have it as it were, where you in the just concluded elections, where you only had one police officer attached to a particular polling unit? You know, when we put this forward to some of the police chiefs with respect to you send police officers to a polling unit to stand there throughout the process. People complained that they were intimidated by police officers who were working in connivance with some political parties. Can't we have a process or a situation where we have police officers dedicated to monitor exercises in certain polling units who can actually do their duties without being, lured by, the antics of some political parties? Because it seems that is where it all gets wrong, that police officer party who have bought them over. So at what stage will the police now realize that they also play a crucial role, not just the police, any of the security apparatus we have in the country?
I think the police have the proper way of punishing their defaulting officers. So in Nigeria, some sort of indisciplined attitude. So in election day, you see, okay, how did we come out with some people, like the normally song you hear on the social media, kereke something. So some people came with cameras. The securities agents in different polling unit when election is conducted or is going on. So you cannot say that every police officer that was sent to, or every security personnel that was sent to different polling unit, all of them compromised. So if we
what then can we determine as being compromised? A police officer who perhaps has seen that voting irregularities has taken place on a large scale in this region and fails to put a call across to, is to be playing safe. Yes.
I don't think it was a duty of the personnel to call for any forms of irregularity
from the police to come over and rescue the situation, but most of them did not do so. Instead, we saw instances like during the March 18 elections in Lagos State. We had real-time evidences from some persons we even had to put on the air showing police officers
to the security apparently. So that was completely, I still say that you cannot have this thing happening in all centers during the election. Police officers or security personnel that were identified, their face was showing. So it is left for the different security apparatus to decide how to punish these their officers related to political activity. As a security personnel, you don't supposed to be party affiliate. You don't supposed to be supporting one candidate, and the election is to elect a leader that will govern Nigeria, not a leader that will govern one group of people or one political party. The political party is just to bring out a candidate, but who biased by his negligence of duty and decide to be adhering to order from a mere talk. That is, somebody is not supposed to be the one giving order. He is now maybe adhering to the order of the talk, and the query, in fact, should be dismissed, because it shows that you went there to compromise. It means you were bought. So officers who were found culprit of offenses like this, to tell them this is not what we asked you, this was not your line of duty. So because of this, you're being queried or you're being questioned.
So the fairness and freeness of a polls, I did mention earlier on that Nigerians describe INEC and its head, Mahmoud Yakubu, as an embarrassment and a disgrace to the country, especially at the international stage or before the global community, because they didn't give us the elections that we wanted. Uploading results from polling units through the BVAS to the IREV. All of those promises were, not met in large areas during these elections. And you would say Nigerians were disappointed that the IREV, which could have made a difference if INEC had used it diligently and credibly deployed it, failed, because They did not use this issue. They easily allege that there's been some kind of compromise if INEC did not keep to its own tenet or the rules of engagement as guaranteed by the Constitution and the Electoral Act, especially with the deployment of the BVAS, which was the 2015 polls. At that stage, would you join the school of thought that says INEC possibly may have been bought over because they did not keep to the tenet or the promises that they themselves made?
I think in not doing it, and we fold our hands and say, oh, it's normal. So I feel INEC came up with 1,001 promises how election is going to be conducted, that's going to be transmitted, that you could stay. We saw a shadow of himself. We noticed that the election was not, the result was not close to the activities during the election from INEC was not close to the promise and the money that was budgeted for election umpires who violate the electoral rules, who bypassed the beaver, who did what was not supposed to do during election. Now, the question is INEC holding any of their election umpires to ransom for not doing the right thing on the field? He's been found guilty, even when they said that there were some problems related to beavers and all that. This problem, was it that the beavers were not functioning? Was it that they were tech know-how on ground that could have handled these beavers? I saw election that every polling unit, you must have someone that is known as a rack tech. A rack tech is someone that, if the beavers is not functioning the way it's supposed to be, maybe I am a polling officer.
The rack techs were approved to be at the polling unit
yes,
by INEC?
Yes, every polling unit, every collation center has a rack tech. Every collation center has one rack tech. That one rack tech controls the whole. The beaver is not working or it's not capturing result. It's okay, wait, I'm coming. You come there and rectify the problem. How many of these rack tech guys were able to do that? Because we see election where I witnessed where some people that were trained were not even selected. And you came out and see them. Some people say, I was trained, I was not taking them. Somebody that was not trained is there. And you can't. Somebody that was not trained cannot do what was supposed to do. Now, in this case, who do you punish? Is it the person you did not train? Or is it the person you trained you did not take? And the one you did not even train that does not even have an idea of what is going to happen in that place? So, these are the problems that INEC themselves could have sit down, did not do right in the entire election.
You've talked keenly about the role that some of the ADOC officials or ADOC staff have played in all of this, because they were the most instrumental. Nigeria's always resorted to using core members as to serve in the capacity of ADOC staff during our elections, and most persons have complained about the competency of some core members. It may not be across, election affairs in a particular polling unit for a number of hours, as we've seen over the years. So would you join the school of arguments that have said, since the core members have not been able to give us what we want and they are easily compromised, let's resort to having another kind of people manage, youths. Now, most of these, we saw footages where some of them were attacked. Most of them did not even know what to do, and they were easily influenced. So would you say that's another, setback in the electoral process, that you have persons who are easily supervising elections in a polling unit where thousands of persons are supposed to come vote?
I want to say that most of the time, I saw the core members as the most people intimidated, because when you are sent to an environment that you don't know anybody, you don't know the language, and people come with, you will be afraid. Sincerely, you will be afraid. So these core members they are families, and you not of arms, and you are a core member. What do you do? What do you do? So sometimes I noticed some people said that core members were the one that rigged the election and all that. There is any core member who goes the day of election and say, okay, let me rig election for party A or party A.
We saw footages of some core. If you do not want this, then there would be no elections. But if you want elections to take place, just know we're not going to upload the results. So she was basically telling them, even before the first votes were cast, don't expect uploading of results on the our elections into the hands of core members.
We still have core members who are ready for a positive change in Nigeria. Now you are saying somebody or one person in Lagos State. So if you check certain, I cannot say that I was taught on how to, maybe the INEC trained me how to upload the election result, then I go to the field and said, this is not what I'm going to. Is it INEC that directed me not to do so? So that means that person. See, the electoral law does not exempt a core member who faulted the law or who that core member should be questioned. So in general, NYC have been able to give us or give Nigerian people that could come out to handle election processes with all their hearts, with all amount of open.
Interestingly, let's factor in the role of the political parties now, since we're talking about lessons that have probably been learned from the elections. Without the parties, there were no candidates, and so there would be no need to contest for the elections. Former Senate President failed to adhere to even the most basic rules in their own constitution, let alone respecting, say, INEC guidelines, as it were, in the Electoral Act or the constitution of the country. And it explains why every now and then, most of the electioneering cases we have in the country, parties with in-house crises to solve, you have parties pitching, themselves against other political parties, all to arrive at a particular goal, and that's clinching some certain political offices. There's a huge role that political parties have to play in all of this, because they are going to come in and cast the vote based on guidelines stipulated by INEC for the middleman, which is the political parties and their candidates. But some would say the parties have equally been culpable for the poor state of the elections, because you have INEC coming out to conduct an elections for 18 registered political parties in the country, most of whom should have the responsibility of guiding their followers. You go into that election, this is an election. Feel free to run with a ballot box. Feel free to snatch a ballot box and run. I mean, in real time. And such candidates or parties are not called for questioning, but everyone keeps quiet and allow the process to go on. Then it speaks volume of the kind of politics that we play or practice in this country. We may not make action that is free and a true representation of what the people want, because it's a process that must produce a winner and a loser.
I think in Nigeria or in our country, in an election, that the party must win an election, because by the time you are going to election with this mindset that it is a must, that it is the I must win attitude that is causing problems during election day. But if you allow the people to come out and exercise their rights, vote for your party because what you are going to do for the people, and allow the people to express themselves willingly, there will be no need for paying talks or paying terrorists or paying all sorts of people to come and disrupt election, snatch ballot boxes. Everybody wants to be a winner. Now, it is not also the end that you conduct election or you take part in an election that you must be a winner. Allow the people. It's the people that is going to vote for you. And what will make these people to vote for you? The people will only vote for you because of what you are going to do, because of the kind of person they have seen you in the society, because of the people cannot vote for you because you know how to fight, because you know how to hire talks. So the reason why you see a lot of political crises, problem during elections, snatching of ballot boxes, election disruption by political parties and candidates is because of this. They want to be the winner at all, want to win. So when you want to win by all costs without the people say, okay, we want you, the person will resort to violence, it will result to election malpractice, it will result to hiring of talks, will result, for instance, me and you are, maybe for instance, we are doing a debate and we come out and talk to the people. It is me facing the crowd, you facing the crowd. So it is what we say that will determine the kind of person we are. It is what we've done in the past that will make the people to say, okay, this is who we want. It is how credible you are coming out to run for an election and you want to win at all costs, and the people say we don't want to. You will resort to fight. You will resort to bringing all sorts of people to disrupt election for the person that's supposed to win to be scared. The people that are supposed to vote for their candidate will be scared, they will be threatening. So in that case, you hijack the result, you hijack the election, you hijack everything, and you take it to yourself.
Well, it's interesting as we wrap up this conversation quickly. We've looked at INEC, the role of the security in an election. Pre-election concerns were really hovered around some vices that some persons felt were not good for the polity, most of which are still rearing their heads even after the elections. It's about the purported audio that was leaked, which was set to be a conversation between the Labour Party candidate and a religious cleric in the country, where it appeared that he was canvassing for votes in some states in the southwest, and also claims that he described several other persons in other parties. The APC, for instance, political elites could just...
Let me start from the audio phone call recorded or sometime or maybe played that we heard in different social media platforms, that it was the voice of Mr. Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate. Is the religious leader a political head that is coming to canvass vote for a presidential candidate? To me, I feel that call, I think it is more or less something somebody just voiced from somewhere. Because if NCC told us that nobody could leak, there's no third party that could tamper with anybody's call in Nigeria unless they are involved. And in this particular one, NCC said they are not involved, they don't know, they don't have any idea. It means, to me, I look at it as maybe somebody just went to studio and hooked up something. And the problem we're having, it is the tribal sentiment, it is the religious sentiment that we're having that is tearing us apart. From the day one party will not be for one tribe, will not be for one religious organization, it will be for all Nigerians, both the pagans and the believers.
Okay, might have to take a pause on that because we're wrapping up right now, but thank you so much. Back out your screens come Monday next week. Keep a date with us if you can. Blyden Okam's up next with Business 360. But from me, Raymond Ita, and the rest of the crew, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.